Okay, everybody, just so we're all aware, this meeting is now live. Attendees are joining us remotely. Members of the public are joining us remotely as we speak. And we are recording and streaming live on YouTube. Chairman, the meeting is yours.
Thank you, Phil. I call this meeting to order, the August 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Plan Commission of the Village of Woodridge. First, we need to establish that we have a quorum. Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Baylog, aye. Cortez.
Aye.
Gaspar.
Aye.
Handel-Kanonen.
Aye.
Aye. Press-Bjorka.
Present. Okay, we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the previous meeting, which was July 20th. So can I please have either a motion to approve the minutes or any discussions to change any of the minutes?
Commissioner Gasper will motion to approve.
Commissioner Girard, second.
Please call the roll.
Gaspar.
Aye.
Girard.
Aye.
Baylog, aye. Cortez.
Aye.
Handel-Kanonen.
Aye.
Sealander.
Aye.
Press-Bjorka.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda is consideration of continued case. So the purpose of this meeting tonight is for the continued case consideration of the case brought forward at the Village of Woodridge July 20th Plan Commission meeting. The applicant, CA Industrial Holdings, is seeking a request for a site plan approval for a 250,800 square foot light industrial building, including approval of a preliminary and final plat of subdivision, together with certain deviations from the zoning ordinance and variations from the subdivision regulations ordinance. At the July 20th meeting, staff presented a report. The applicant presented their case. Public testimony was taken during the required public hearing. That was subsequently closed after all attending members of the public were afforded an opportunity to ask questions and make statements. Tonight's meeting, therefore, will begin with the next item on that agenda, which is the Plan Commission discussion of that case. So what I'd like to do, commissioners, is to actually, because I'm sure we all have comments and questions now that the applicants are on, is to go down and give each of you an opportunity. So I'll do that in alphabetical order since we're on Zoom. So I'd like to start with Commissioner Baylog. If you've got questions for the applicants and staff or comments, we'll start with you.
Well, I guess my only question for right now is, was there any consideration of a different site for this building, this company?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, yeah. We're an active industrial developer, so we're always looking for sites in the I-55 corridor to do development. So we were attracted to this site or like this site. It had the ORI zoning, so that's part of the reason we were attracted to it. It's obviously has very good access back down to I-55, has good access back up to 355 on 75th. And we call it the eastern part of the market, which is basically, the international center, which I would say kind of starting, I say the eastern part of the market is starting more like the Willowbrook, going down past Cass Avenue, Lamont Road, and then maybe the western part of international center is the preferred I-55 market in this corridor. And so, yeah, this site was a site that we thought was a very, attractive site to potential users, which obviously made us move forward on this particular project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for right now.
Thank you.
Hey, Commissioner Cortez.
You take those.
Questions I'll ask. I mean, I may ask some more later, but I think the one area I focused on was the truck turnaround area and the parking area you have there on your plan. Is that necessary for this type of application? I've worked in a lot of distribution centers. I haven't seen truck turnarounds in the past that often. Let's put it that way. Truck storage for trailers is not uncommon, but Again, usually you see that mainly at the larger distribution centers. So just curious, is that an integral part of your plan? And you're muted. I can't hear you.
Jim, you're muted. Please unmute yourself. Or Phil?
I am trying. Jim, I'm going to give you a request to unmute. If you can please accept that request. I can't do it for you. Okay, you should be good now.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
We're good.
Yes.
Okay. I had a great answer too. So, no, so this property only has one access point for the trucks, which is the south entrance off of Lamont Road. So for trucks to turn back around to get to Lamont Road, the only ways they can do it is obviously trucks that are actually that can come in the south. They can obviously try to use the dock positions, but if there's trucks that are already there, they can't do that. But probably the most important thing is trucks prefer to do, we call it a counterclockwise circulation, which they don't like backing off. If they come in clockwise, then they have to back in over their blind shoulder. No different than us parking, our car, we prefer to do it over our other shoulder. So that's why you have the turnaround there, because what trucks can do is they will pull into the truck court, and they have the ability then to basically do that, use that, I'll call it a cul-de-sac or turnaround, to basically then come back towards Lamont Road and then back into the dock position off their other shoulder. So that's what it's preferred. Now, a building like this that probably won't be that truck intensive and probably won't have that many docks there. My guess is I don't know how many people will use this. It's a really good design. We would design our buildings like this, but again, to make it simple, if there's only one truck inside of a dock position or a couple, as long as he has enough room to get in there, he'll go in there. So I probably see this more in larger bulk distributions where you might have, let's use an example, 25 trucks sitting at the dock positions, and a guy's got to hit the needle between the two trailers. Well, then he doesn't like that. If this is a case where there's only 10 trucks total parked at a dock position, he's got a lot of room to maneuver, and my guess is he won't use it. So I'm not a truck driver, but I think the more room they have, I would say it's as simple as you and I driving our cars in parallel parking. The bigger the spot is, we can make a lot more mistakes getting in there. If it's really tight, you have to nail it. So that's why we did that. Trailer storage is you always just want the flexibility for somebody who can use trailer storage. It could be trailer storage. It could actually be box trucks. We're working on a deal right now, not in this market, but in the Cincinnati market, where we're trying to get a deal completed with Lowe's, and Lowe's has the box trucks, which are the 24-foot box trucks, which you probably see on the market, are kind of like the Amazon trucks, where they'll actually park here. So those are actually taken in-home deliveries or taken into construction sites. So we'd like to have the flexibility to have the trailer storage. I think that's a lot of this is why we build our building a certain clear height, why we have the turnaround, why we have the trailers. It's all, in our mind, is all just insurance or just really good design. So we just don't like to do something later that, we lose a particular tenant because we didn't have that. So I would say they're all necessary. Again, the trailer spots could be, and it could actually be additional car parking. So you just never know the type of user that you'll get in there.
I mean, I think the comment you're making there about trying to leave flexibility for those other type of users is, I think, one of the concerns that a lot of the residents are addressing. And so that's why I asked that question. I mean, if that area, I can understand having the space available, but if it wasn't built out that way today, then that would provide another opportunity to, again, I think that's one of the concerns people have, is that this is a unknown tenant. So the usage level is concerning.
Well, I know, and we've actually presented we did some addition, so this bigger picture, we did some additional traffic studies in some other facilities actually in Woodridge. And we had the traffic study I mentioned in our report. So I think what's really important, we did, and this has been provided to Kimberly, and I guess the data is with staff. But again, we look at 3 different facilities. One is on Catherine Crossings, which was a 760,000 square foot facility that had RJW, which is a very, very intensive 3PL logistics company. And it does a lot of an incredible amount of volume. And in that case, that particular project for the number of trucks that it's doing is roughly doing, what is here? They're doing roughly inbound, outbound trucks, which is 250 trucks a day. And I'll go really quick through there. We mentioned in our initial submittal, the traffic study I did when I was at Prolites, which was a 2.7 million square foot facility, which is 5 buildings. And then we did 1020 Davie Road. But let me maybe get to the punchline here is I think what was really interesting on this thing was that if, again, when you look at this, the amount of trucks that you actually see, the amount of trucks you see at night was the high density one in Catherine Crossings was only 30 trucks at night. Again, this is 762,000 square feet. And which means for a facility such as ours is we're talking about, roughly about, 10 trucks at night. The Prolites project, again, would be more along the lines of about 5 to 6 trucks at night. And then the other one, the one on Davie Road. And again, staff has all this. They did 1 truck a night. So when you say the unknown users, I look at this that at night, when you're talking about a maximum amount of trucks of 10 trucks inbound and outbound, it's such low density. And also we spent a great amount of time, from other things I've worked on next to residential, looking at noise studies, making sure we had the screen wall, and then also making sure we had the berming and the setbacks, that I'm very, very confident that we're well below the decibel levels that, are required by code. And also we're in line with the decibel levels that are required by the state of Illinois, which is 40 decibels. So I know it's an unknown user, but I think you have to look at data that we did looking at very similar type projects and say the amount is, maybe the residents care about the amount of trucks that show up during the day, which we project at 50 to 52 inbound and outbound, which I think is a very good measure of the data that we have. But I think it's also important to look at, if I'm a resident, I care what is it between 10 o'clock and 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., because that's when I'm trying to sleep. So a lot of people aren't home during the day. And if they are, you're more active. At night, we care about noises. So I think the density and the frequency of trucks are going to be very little. And I think by my background and what we've done in these noise studies and how this was designed, I'm very comfortable that the noise levels will be very minimal and well below. We even talked to one of our consultants. They said, I bet the noise level is actually lower because if you've got your building blocking all the background noise you have on Lamont Road. And, I didn't study that, but, I guess that's debatable, but, it's actually worth considering when you're blocking all that noise off of Lamont Road.
And then the final question I'll ask at this time is, I know the elevation of the building is asking for the variance because of the grade of the site. And that's what's driving up how the measurement looks. And maybe just to ask, is it feasible to lower the building further by regrading the site further down at lower elevation? Is that feasible?
No.
Or is that
So let me, I guess is, you can do anything. It's just money. But the issue with that is the grade differential, when we talk about that, is 8 to 10 feet difference. So to lower the building down there means we essentially would have to, we'd have to remove, and I can tell you right now, we would have to remove 8 feet of dirt from this site. So bear with me. If I've got 15 acres of land, because I'm saying we have some detention ponds there, and I've got 8 feet of dirt, that's almost 200,000 cubic yards of dirt that I have to get rid of at $25 a cubic yard is $5 million to remove all that dirt to make that work. And that's what we tried to do by not, definitely our setback greatly exceeds what's required by the village code. And by doing that, we're trying to do it by providing the berming, providing the fencing, and trying to block those views. But it's just not physically possible. Again, the land's not worth that much money, so it's just not physical. I can do it physically, I just can't afford to do it. So that's why we tried to do, again, the setbacks, the berming, all the landscaping you're gonna have. And let's bear in mind that Dunham Road is very heavily landscaped 6 or 7 months out of the year. And so that's providing natural blockage too. So
Chairman, do we need to wait till our turn to add to these questions that are related?
Yeah, I think so, John. I think that'd be the easiest.
Yes, and Commissioner Cortez, to add to that too, is that you have to remember with grading, you don't want to create a drainage issue.
I understand. That's why I asked that's kind of why I asked the question the way I did.
And so one of
With how the grading of the site is.
Definitely. So the grading is not only topographical issues, but also, again, the maximum height allowed is 40 feet. The building height from top to bottom is only 38 feet.
I understand. Again, I think we all understand that. We also understand that because of the site, it also does end up being a little higher too. So,
Yes.
yeah,
so
that's correct.
that's why I wanted, that's the clarification there. That's
Well,
all.
you know, and ideally, this doesn't make the residents feel better. We would prefer, we would have preferred well, let me step back. From a true engineering standpoint, the majority of our stormwater is going to the east. So in a perfect world without the residents on the west, I would prefer to slide our building as far as I can push it to the west and have my storm ponds along Lamont Road. It gives me more area to transition and it saves us money by storm piping. Now, from a standpoint of from the residents, we would love to push the building further. We would have spent the money to push the building further to Lamont Road. But the problem is because the site comes up and the height is such, we can't get the trucks can only, and I'm sorry to be too technical, but the trucks can only, and cars, and because of our weather and snow and ice, the maximum grades that we're comfortable with are 5%, which that means in 100 feet, our drive aisles will come up 5 feet. So we need about 200 feet to get basically our trucks and our cars to the parking lots, to do it in a safe way. So it's a catch-22. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd love to see Lamont Road, a lot closer to the normal grades. And then we probably would have slid the building closer and had more of the pond to the back and just spent the money. Everything we did for this project in regards to the residents, there's nothing I ever said, cut corners to save us money. It's like, what do we need to do to reduce noise? What do we need to do to reduce sight lines? And what do we do that we feel we provide, we're a good neighbor for them. So there's never been a conversation of let's push the envelope because we're trying to get more square footage. This site has a very poor square footage or FAR on it relative to other sites we develop on. So any event.
I will. So, Chairman, I'll ask my questions for now, but if I will others ask questions at this point.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gasper?
Commissioner Cortez kind of took my questions and the applicant actually answered the other ones I had about the traffic study. So I think I'm good for now.
Commissioner Handel-Kanunen?
Yes, I too had a question about the elevation and that was answered. I was just, Director Porter, maybe you can answer this. If you could just refresh again for me what the prohibited uses are in an ORI.
Yes. Give me 1 second. So, Commissioner Handel-Kanunen, per our code, prohibited uses include motor vehicle repair, utility yards, outdoor machinery storage and retail, and cartage and express facilities. And how the village code defines cartage and express facilities. These are buildings, parking lots, or related structures whose principal use is one or more of the following: the routing of trucks, the receipt and immediate dispatching of goods, short-term storage, which is incidental to the primary function of the receipt and dispatching of goods, and the parking or storage of trucks, trailers, or other vehicles that accommodates simultaneous loading and unloading of trucks. This type of use is allowed in our most intensive zoning district, which is M for manufacturing. These type of uses will not be allowed in this particular zoning district.
Okay, that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Okay, Commissioner Giroux?
I don't have any questions right now. We covered a lot already. Thank you.
Commissioner Sealander?
So is this the only time we're gonna ask questions and then we're gonna go on to public comment and then action?
No, I think we'll have one more round, but we could be prepared to go through that and keep it to the schedule. That would be great.
Okay. So I just want everybody to know that I live behind this thing, so it is personal to me, and I've been here 33 years. 33 years ago, I moved in. It was in your notes. It was zoned residential on the western portion of this. Eastern portion was or western portion would be residential. Eastern would be commercial. So I've been through this and all the changes. Unfortunately, I wasn't involved in the meeting when they changed when they allowed change. So I wanted you to know that. So I have a lot more to say, but I'm not going to. I'll ask my questions. So you talk about the turnaround. The truck drivers are probably habits. So they're probably all going to turn around to get into the backwards because they prefer that backup method. Will the turnaround be allowed to be used at night, since I think our code says within 300 feet, there cannot be receiving of goods and services?
That's a very good question. I would say yes, because the trucks will still go. Well, let me step back. I would say the trucks, if they choose to use it, they will probably still make that turnaround there, which is so that's, we should probably open to discuss that. What I would say again is looking at the number of trucks that I anticipate being at this facility at night being extremely low. If it's 5 to 10 inbound, outbound total, my guess is they would not use that again, because if they're going to a certain door, they would just pull up and be able to fit into that door. Now, I can't promise you nobody would ever use it, but my guess is it's possible. It is possible that a truck would use that.
So my question to the village is that breaking our ordinance, and will they be cited for it if a neighbor is concerned about that?
Performance standards, Commissioner, are with respect to noise and the restricted dock doors are administered through our police department, because village is closed from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So if someone is, again, this is a spec building, if approved and a user is a user that utilizes some sort of truck deliveries, that truck turnaround will not be used. Again, if this vacant building is approved, once we have a particular user in mind, at that point, those business operations will be vetted, and that individual, prior to receiving building permit, will be explained on what they can and cannot do, which would include the usage of those restricted dock doors.
Yeah, I think the code, until it's been a while. We've been working on this since January, but I think doesn't the code say you're restricted from loading and unloading of basically product at anything that's within the 300 feet of the property line. I don't know if it necessarily said a truck couldn't turn around there and leave. I think they're concerned about the banging of trucks and that noise. I guess we could debate about the noise of the truck pulling up there, but that's also, I think, Commissioner, why that screen wall is there. So what that is going to be doing is deflecting the noise. So that's going to become, a quasi sound wall that's going to deflect that sound back out towards Lamont Road.
Well, there's been no definition. First of all, you just said quasi. So if it's a sound wall, it's a sound wall.
Well, yeah, I think maybe let me clarify that. A true definition of, I would say, a sound wall is what you might see along, along I-355 where there's a home. So it's an IDOT standard sound wall. When we did our project in Lockport working with the noise thing, this will be a solid concrete thing that has very strong sound attenuation and will be deflecting noise. So I guess I don't want to, I think it's still this, in my mind, it's the same thing. It's a different product type.
Yeah, I mean, so the village code says no shipping and receiving of any goods within 300 feet of residential. So I don't think that a truck can pull up behind Jewel at night. Is that, do I have the right understanding of that? I'm asking the village.
Commissioner, I mean, just to kind of discuss this with examples, the village has examples from within the past year to a year and a half of being responsive to resident concerns about situations exactly to that. Take, for example, the Seven Bridges development, which is a much more unique development in that the residential is exceptionally close to the commercial aspect of that development, and one would assume that as a homeowner you may expect a certain level of noise living so close to commercial in that environment. The village has still taken action to work with business owners even in that environment to ensure that deliveries are done by village code standards, if that answers your question.
This is going to be the primary business of this, and so part of making the residents feel more comfortable would be the builder to say, fine, we will block off or we will barricade the use of that if it's illegal at night. So it will not be used, and then the citizens can sleep through the night. So that's I get the, if we understood what the rule was, then the residents can go, okay, I won't hear that happening all night because they'll have to stop at a certain point. So that's my only feedback.
Well, what I would say, Commissioner, I don't disagree with you. What I would say, well, first off, I guess there's a practicality of that is we're not on site. So, I guess you can always design something that provides a barricade or something, but I would say it should be based upon at some level, if there's complaints or or showing that there's decibel levels being exceeded, I think it's a fair comment. I would say if the decibel levels are not being exceeded, then it's probably something that doesn't need to be put in. So it's without knowing who the users are. Again, I have no idea where the trucks are going. Again, if it's 5 trucks that show up at, in a 10-hour period, I don't know what dock door he's going to, but I'm not exactly sure how I'd put a barricade up here every single night unless it's, I guess, electronically goes down or something, electrically goes down every night.
I mean, our goal is to get the community to be protected safety wise, and that we work together. And so only you can make this stuff happen.
No, I understand.
Commissioner, if I may, there was a case that came before the Plan Commission back in 2018 with regard to certain things such as this. It was also a spec building in which a question came from this commission regarding potential restrictions on hours. And our attorney at that time stated that we cannot restrict a vacant building. But I assure you, staff is responsible if this building is approved ultimately by the village board. Staff will be required when the particular use comes in to vet those business operations of the use. That use may need a special use permit, which will bring them back before you in the process. And if it doesn't, we are required to vet those business operations to ensure that they understand what those rules and regulations are. And many of those performance standards are a part of the building permit application. So although we cannot legally put on time limit restrictions to a vacant building, if the board approves this building, we will be required to go through the potential business operations of the potential end user of this particular building to ensure their compliance with performance standards. Thank you.
We talked about cartage. I really see how, I'm not sure how this setup, the way it's designed, is any different from a cartage. And so we're going to have, you have 27 parking spots for it says, I mean, I'm probably reading this stuff wrong, but I read we can't have short-term storage which is incidental to the primary function of the receipt and dispatch of goods. I read that in your notes to us. But we've got 27 parking spots for that.
Is this question posted to staff?
Yeah.
This is the design. This is, and again, this is just a design to cast the widest net. They can design this building however they see fit. Ultimately, the village determines and will approve what the end user will be based on our ordinance. And a cartage facility is not allowed.
But if it's designed for it, they may be here asking us to build it.
That is a prohibited use in our ORI district. It is prohibited.
Okay.
I think,
Let's be clear here. If you look at, all the stuff that, and forgive me, McShane's project that's on Woodward, that's ORI zoning. Our building is going to be exactly what those buildings are. The Wood Hill project, the Catherine Crossings, that bridge development did many years ago, that's ORI zoning. So if you go look at Catherine Crossings has a building just like this, except it's got trailers all the way across it. A cartage building, in our world of definition, is somebody like a truck terminal. It's very short-term storage. It's stuff that's moved out constantly, in and out, very high throughput type traffic. So these buildings are not considered, they're considered light industrial. They're not considered cartage buildings.
Additional point of clarification, Chairman and Commissioners, is that many of those buildings and projects that were quoted by the applicant also has some of them are a part of larger annexation agreements, which requires and allows for different flexibilities and requirements as well, just as a point of reference. But again, ORI does not allow for those type of intensive cartage uses. Again, this industrial developer has developed or is proposing the development of this building to cast a wide net of users, which you see a myriad of automobile parking as well as potential truck trailer parking. As the applicant stated a little while ago, those truck trailer parkings could be modified to accommodate automobiles depending on the user. And
Commissioner, just one further point on this that I think may have got somewhat lost in translation there. I think to the point you were trying to make, looking at the site plan as you see it, it seems like a very intensive site plan for the use. This could also be much like other developments along Lamont Road that was included in the staff report packet from our previous meeting. This could, as a spec building, be divided into a multi-tenant use as well by multiple less intensive uses that would be permitted within the RI zoning.
I mean, that will improve it drastically. We just don't know if that'll happen. So I do want to recognize the developer for making the concessions he's done. The 14-foot pound wall is definitely a positive. The cedar fence is definitely a positive. The berm, although it only surfaces 2 feet above the floor of the warehouse, but it's an improvement. So there was a lot of thought and feedback that was brought in from the community to do that. How about this? I question this tree preservation. I read in our notes that it was that they had to take a deviation from the requirements, yet we don't have that included as a deviation on our list of deviations. Is it a different ordinance? Doesn't need to be?
Tree preservation removal allowances are done at staff level, which would be my level. I have the right, so they are allowed up to 25%, and then the director of community development has the discretion to provide a larger removal allowance, which I did. Many of those trees are scrub trees, and some of those trees are in the buildable area, which have to be removed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you fill the lot like that, you're gonna have to remove trees. Is 5 good tree or is 1 a good tree on this plan that was provided?
And do you know on the ratings of trees, is it 5 a good tree or is 1 a good tree?
I don't recall off the top of my head, but I can look that information up.
I'm checking the ordinance now, Commissioner. Give me a second.
It goes 5 is dead, 4 is poor, 3 is fair, 2 is good, 1 is excellent. So 1 being the best, 5 being the worst.
Okay. So
Thank you.
then we do have a lot of really bad trees on there from that illustration.
We do.
The other thing is it said something about in our notes that we're going to eliminate the requirement to replace any trees on the site. That was in the tree preservation section. Was that just misspoken? Because they offered to replace 300 and some trees.
You said your notes, where were your notes taken from? Are you referring to the staff report or these are
Staff
notes?
report under tree preservation.
Okay, let me-
There's a quote, to eliminate the requirement to replace any trees on the site. That got me a little nervous.
I am looking at my report. So there are, with respect to trees preservation plans, Commissioner, as you know, there are 2 requirements. Depending on the site, there's tree preservation and a replacement requirement, and then there's the required landscaping. They're not going to be required to provide the replacement trees due to a lot of the existing trees that are available. They just can't replace they can't do required landscaping as well as replacement trees. They don't have to provide the replacement trees, but they have to provide the required landscaping. That is not uncommon with development within this community.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was clear in our notes, so it will be after, now that we've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
The south landscape setback relief of 10 down to 10 feet. Is there a reason we can't cure that by making the building 10 feet smaller or the parking lot 10 feet smaller, and then you meet that requirement?
Sorry, I'm muting myself. So as you can see on the south end, that is not a perfect box.
Right.
So although technically that particular site to the south, as is stated in my report, is zoned ORI. So technically they are within their requirements. But because there is a house on this ORI zone piece of parcel, the applicant has taken the more restrictive approach. But technically they meet the requirements of the code.
So then probably don't need to get a DV.
Exactly, but because they see that there is a home there, they wanted to be transparent and request a landscape setback from 10 to 20 feet.
Because that 10 feet might give us more of the trees that their preservation was required to get. Because there's not going to be hardly any protection for whoever goes next to there, some warehouse, or if the gentleman who lives there stays there, there won't be any protection put in there to protect them.
Yeah, one thing I'd say, Commissioner, is, but if it went to a 20-foot setback there, green space, you're probably planting trees here. I don't know, probably 10 feet on center. I don't think you're going to get. You can get bushes in there.
It's tight.
It's going to be tight. So there's just not enough room to get many more trees in there. So I think it's kind of 2 different things. If it's something you want to have, it just provides a little more. It provides a little more buffer from them. For also what it's worth, I mean, this has nothing to do with that code. We have reached out to Mr. Vintrup numerous times, trying to buy his land, trying to buy a little bit of his land, whatever the menu is. We've made offers to him. I can't tell how many different letters I've left in his mailbox. So, and I'm not saying that means he shouldn't have his, if you feel it's necessary, he shouldn't have his green space, but he's very much aware of what's being built here. And it makes sense now with our building or potentially going here and the volleyball court going to the south. He's landlocked and, not an ideal. The one thing I would say too, here or there, but that area he has, you can kind of see from the site plan. I mean, it's incredibly wooded in there. It's very, very dense. So I don't think putting a few more trees on our property doesn't really change that. It's already very, very dense. Now, if a future use came in there, that's a very fair point. So.
Okay. The other deviation, we've talked about the height, but I read on your drawings that the height is 40 feet on the elevation. The elevation drawing says it's 40 feet tall. But yeah, I've heard you.
Ed, why don't you explain how the code measures it?
Well, no, not the code measurement. It's just
Oh.
your elevation. If you read these little tiny, it's 40 feet.
Yeah,
That's
it's
at
not
the
about how the
highest
tall.
point of the building where code speaks to it more as the consistent height of the building, not at the parapet.
Right.
But you're correct. The highest point is 40 feet, but the most consistent point of the building height is going to be the 37 or
38, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's it's higher just up by the office there.
Yeah.
Correct. Just
correct.
provides a little bit of architectural enhancement.
Okay. And we've run up against, I mean, you hate to hear me say this, I know, Director, but if we're going to change, if we're going to accept deviations, maybe we need to change our rules. Because you keep asking us to change the rules for exceptions rather than, so.
I'm not understanding. I'm not following, Commissioner. Please.
Our rules say this is 48 feet 5 inches or 6 inches. But you're suggesting that we should give them a deviation because the rules don't make sense. And I'm curious.
Standard enabling zoning, the federal standard enabling laws that dictate zoning ordinance require that all communities nationwide provide an opportunity to provide relief to a zoning ordinance. So there's no way that every parcel in any community in any part of this country can meet every aspect of a zoning ordinance. Therefore, relief or deviation process has to be provided within your respective zoning ordinance.
Right, but we've done this several times where we've had to make this deviation
For
because,
building height,
yeah,
then I guess that if the village board determines that building height, the way the village calculates village height, building height, because again, we don't calculate building height vertically from foundation to the roof. We calculate it based on a grading plan and looking at the slopes and take the average of a slope and then subtracting that average from the highest point. And so if the board sees fit when this is presented to them as well to remand this review of our building height calculation to staff, then we will so forth do so.
so will the building look 48 feet tall from one corner?
No, so height is being calculated via the grading plan presented during the initial site engineering plan. So once they've conducted some site engineering, then that building should be no more than 40 feet from at the street level. But again, the way we calculate height, that's just how it comes in.
But it's going to appear to be 48 because it's up in the air. That side is high and you're standing low, right?
Well, there is some slope, and I will ask the applicant, when you begin to regrade, will you be able to regrade the aspects that are in which the slope deviates? Will you be able to provide some regrading during engineering? Yes or no?
Our engineering plans are mostly final. There will be some regrading of the site as we cut, fill, and balance with a grading contractor at the end of the day. To answer the commissioner, from the street side, you will be at a sidewalk looking at our building. And as it steps back to where the building is from the street, you ultimately, the shorter answer is yes, it'll be 48 feet perception, but the building will be 38 feet tall.
That's from Lamont Road.
Where the grading is at issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Just final, just comment. The warehouse behind me is only 100,000 square feet. The noise from it is intermittent. And in the middle of the night, the biggest problem is those backup beeps. And there's nothing anybody can do with that. If there's gonna be 10 backup beeps going on at night in this new place, it's gonna travel right to Phil's location just south of there. And everybody who lives there, it's just gonna go right over that wall. And there's nothing you can do about it because it's well over 100 decibels. And I don't think you can, I think legally we cannot fine them for that because it's federal law requires that those are on there, and the trucking laws protect the truck for those sounds. So just keep that in mind.
Well, and what I'd say is that, I don't know, Phil, can we show up our noise exhibit we did at Lockport?
Can you give me, Ed, perhaps if you can give me an idea of a page number on that?
Page 40.
We'll make sure that's the right one.
And Commissioner, just while I pull that up, to answer your question, Jim, if I can just talk through this. Commissioner, just to answer your question about the village code as it interplays with that federal law, the performance standards for noise do have to exempt in the code the noises of safety signals, warning devices, and emergency pressure relief valves.
So the neighbors will hear this at night. I don't care if it's, the current building now is 350, 400 feet away, has landscaping in the back, does not have the sound wall, and does not have the fence. I give up the floor for now.
It will just, Jim, if you want to unmute and talk us through this this noise study here. If the applicant wants to unmute and talk us through this as they requested before. Jim, you are muted. I'll need you to unmute.
There
we go.
I mean, this, if you go to page 42, I know this is really, really confusing, or not confusing. It's just, so when we did our noise study when I was at Lockport project we did for Prolites, and so bear in mind the houses that were north of the main road. So this is a 2.4 million square foot industrial development. The two white buildings you see here, the large one is 750,000 square feet. The one to the left of that is 450,000 square feet. The other two white buildings are actually like next rectangles are 300,000 square feet. And then, so anyway, and then we actually bought a land north there. It doesn't matter. But my point being is that the road that went, the main spine road, which is the main access to all these, was a transitional yard in Lockport, was 100 feet from the residents' basic backyard, 100 feet. So we studied this on how to do berming, landscaping, and making sure we had some sort of screen walls, sound walls. And what's important is if you look at the decibel levels, you can see what, by putting the proper things in there, how low the decibel levels are when you look at the top one there by having the sound walls. Again, a 40 decibels is the sound of a refrigerator. Your code requires, I think your code is 80. Lockport's was 60. 80 is way too loud next to residential. I would never design any facility that was anywhere near that level of decibels. So we spent a lot of time, and actually I don't mind if you go back up to the next, maybe go the page before that, which is what, or page, make sure that's the right one. That's idling trucks. Let me see. Actually, maybe look at page 43 is pretty good. Is that page 43? That's page 43. So if you look at that, look at the bottom one. That was the air brake release impulsive sound and I don't know what impulsive sound mean versus other decibels. So that this thing was very complicated. I mean, you have to be a sound expert, but look, the red is terrible. We didn't want any red. So that was not going to be in our design. And us, by doing the right design, you can see up above how low the decibels level are by doing, and I learned a lot about this. Sound, obviously, distance matters. You need hard surfaces to deflect it. And also sound goes everywhere. But if you're low and you have a wall and you have trees and everything, the sound is going to go everywhere. There's no question. But if you have your cedar fence and you have your that 14-foot screen wall, those noises are being deflected. So look, I don't want to say you don't hear anything, but you're getting down to where your decibel levels are 30 and 40 decibels. That's extremely low. So in this thing we have here, I mean, maybe go back to what page showed actually the decibel levels. So page 39 showed decibel levels. So if you start talking about 40 to 50 decibels, your moderate rainfall 60, your code is 80. That's way too high. Lockport again was 60. That's still too high. And so we were able to design it where we were consistently in that 40 or under decibels. And this design we did is exactly the same thing. And so, I mean, I don't want to, so I guess I hope you have some confidence that there's a lot more thought than this and saying, put up a building here and there's not, and we're just going to hope the residents just live with it. That's not at all what we did. We made sure this was designed correctly, or at least I believe it was.
I mean, this study from something else doesn't do me much, but the last time we had Pulte in front of us wanting to put in a sound barrier. I'm glad the village had requested that there's actually a sound study so that they had something to read to do it. I don't know if that would be done in this case, but that would be more comfortable.
If there's a user that comes back before the process, a sound study could be something that could be required when an end user comes before us. But what sound would we be studying from a speculative warehouse building is that question.
Yes, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Sealander. Jim, I've got some questions for you. This is Commissioner Presby-Yorka. The design that we looked at earlier tonight, is that the way that you would build this building without knowing who your tenants are? So all those docks, all those parking spaces? Okay.
Yes. We typically, Commissioner, our standard is we'll put in, this is 250,000 square feet. We will put in 25 dock positions. Maybe we'll put 25 full dock positions, which means the doors plus the levelers. We'll probably put another 5 doors in that have no levelers. And the main reason we do this, when the people say you show so many dock doors, the main reason we put them in is mostly a typical building will be somewhere in that range, this type of building, a 40,000 square foot tenant will typically need 3 or 4 dock positions, or they'll have 3 dock positions and they'll need a place to put their dumpster. But the bigger thing too is that it's so expensive in Chicago because of union labor to come back later and have to cut out the precast, cut out the floor slab, put this in. So it's so much cheaper for us to say, we'll just make our best guess. So we'll kind of put in each bay, which the bays are 50, what are those, 54 foot or 52 foot bays. We'll put in 2 dock positions per bay. So this looks like we're putting them all in, but we're not putting all these dock positions in. So I think for the board, Ed, we need to show them what we're putting in, not show every single position put in here. So we'll clean that up, assuming we go to the board. So
there are 50 indicated on this exhibit that we're looking at now?
Let me look it up here. I can't.
And it looks like it. This is like there's 5 or 6 per bay.
Yeah, I don't.
And then what would your you said you would put in less? Can you clarify that?
Well, so let me say, we'll only install speculative 25 dock positions. And And then we'll probably put five. So let me make sure it's clear. 25 fully equipped dock positions, which means a door and the levelers for the trucks. We'll put in 5 more dock positions, or excuse me, 5 more doors, but they'll have no dock position. So that way we could later put a dock position in there. But let's be clear though, if a tenant comes in and says, well, I need 3 more positions, you know, we want the ability to add more dock positions if we need more dock positions. So what we try to do is just do our best guess of when we do these buildings is just kind of uniformly spread them out through the project and just say, well, we're just kind of guessing, you know, where they need their dock positions. Again, I don't think these users will get here will be very dock intensive. So, you know, we hope that one dock per every 10,000 square feet, which would be 25 docks, should be enough. And a lot of buildings we're doing now that we've got quite a few of these going up around the Midwest is, you know, that's a lot of our users, the smaller users, that's what we're seeing, you know, need 3 dock positions or 4 dock positions for 40,000 feet.
Thank you. You had mentioned that there's potential for around, and I know this was a rough guess, 10 trucks a night coming in and out of there. What is the hours when you say at night? Is that 10 p.m. to 7 a.m.?
Yeah. So here's what I would say is, again, the staff has a study. The heavy truck building, which was Catherine Crossings, their trucks, based on the same square footage, that would be between 10 p.m. and 7 p.m. was 10 trucks inbound, outbound night. That's 10. They were the very, very heavy truck users. The other facility we studied, which I still was very surprised with this is the old Prolites Building I was there, which was 2.7 million square feet. And actually, if, we can pull those pictures up if you guys don't mind, because I think it's helpful to see these, which are page 34. So if you go to page 34. So the page 34 is Catherine Crossings, that bridge development did in Woodridge. I think I was still at McShane then. So this project, I don't know, it's probably 10 years old or more than that. Maybe it's 10, 12 years old. But we listed all the tenants on there, but the building at the furthest building in the south, which is 11240 Catherine Crossings, that's RJW. RJW is a 3PL logistics company, which means they move a lot of product. They're running 24/7 out of that facility. So in this whole complex, bear with me, I got to look at my notes here. This whole complex for Catherine Crossings that we estimate they do 30 trucks. Now remember our camera, bear with me, hope you see, we put the camera up at the top because everybody has to come through that position. So this whole complex, which is 762,000 square feet, does 30 trucks a night, inbound, outbounds, 15 trucks in, 15 trucks out. Using that same mathematics, that would mean our facility, our facility is 250,000 square feet. This is, 3 times larger. We would roughly be 10 trucks a night, 5 in, 5 out. Now, if you go to the next project, which was a Prolites project, I'm sure they're tired of me. So I guess if we can go to the next page. Can we change? There we go. No, go to the next page should be
Bridgepoint, Woodridge, page 35.
Let's go one. Yeah, this was the Prolites. So go back to the Prolites one. So we studied this here. We did this in 2016 when we were doing Lockport. So these are very, very large bulk distribution buildings, 2.7 million square feet in these 4 buildings. So these are extremely large buildings, which that, again, going through the data on that does, bear with me here. They get 61 trucks at night, inbound, outbound, but it's 2.7 million square feet. So that would equate to us getting 6 trucks a night, 3 in, 3 out. And now go to Wood Hill, which is the previous page, sorry. Now, right here. So this is the Wood Hill project. And this, I actually think this will be very similar to what our project will be. It's got some distribution companies in there. It's got a Navistar training facility in there. It's got a large electrical company in there. You can see the list of the tenants they have in there. So you can see, we probably won't do deals. The 1020 is a pretty narrow building. We won't have tenants that small, but I think the 1000 Davy is pretty reflective. I think the type of tenants, it's got a volleyball court in there, similar to what that Panettone project on Darien has on the other side of Lamont Road. And that actually was doing one truck a night. So I don't think we'll be that light, but I guess maybe the takeaway to Plan Commission is we took a very, very intensive 3PL driven company, and we think it's 10 trucks a night. And the other one, the Prolites, which are very, very large bulk distribution buildings, and that was 6 trucks a night. So 3 trucks in, 3 trucks out. So I don't want to minimize the concern for the residents, but that's just not that much traffic or that much trucks. And again, we don't know where the trucks are going. They could be going to the first 5 or 6 dock positions. And at that point, they might be, 1,000 feet away from the residents. So anyway, so I try to do this by real data. You look at, it's not perfect. We don't know who the user is going to be, but we do a sampling of different projects, and I've done this a long time. And I can tell you from doing this, it's just, if you drive through International Center at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, you'd be shocked how little activity you see going on down there. Now, the big distribution buildings, there's activity, no question. Amazon, there's a lot of activity, but the other buildings, you'd be surprised how little is going on in those buildings. So not many people are working the night shifts. But trucks will, one thing too, I would say the trucks are showing up. When you say 10 to 7, the majority of those trucks will show up at 6 in the morning, probably, which is not ideal, but maybe people are getting up at 6 in the morning. I know people aren't up at 1 in the morning. So.
Thank you. You had answered a question for Commissioner Baylog earlier about traffic, and you made a point to mention that there's a potential for some of the tenants to go down to I-55 and then also to go up 75th Street to 355.
Right.
So my question would be, why would a tenant want to take their truck traffic through a shopping center area, all those stoplights, as opposed to just going directly to an interstate? And why would they want to be further away from an interstate compared to facilities in International Center or some of these other developments that we're looking at on the screen?
I think that's a great question. If I'm betting, which doing this for a long time, is the vast majority of the truck traffic is going to go southbound. There's 2 reasons. One is there's no light here. So a left turn, cars can make the left turn even in peak hours. I mean, it's a little bit slower than I'd like, but cars can still make the left turn. But my guess is most cars would go right, even if they're going down to catching 355, they would just work their way over to it. But trucks are going to want to go down to 55 there's a couple of reasons. One, the turn is easier. And 2, the Stevenson is not a toll road. So unless they have to go northbound, like they're going up to, they're going to go up to, wherever they're going north up 355, I still think they go down to I-55 because they don't have to sit through, they're not going to sit through you're right. The lights when you're going into Panera and the mall and everything else, trucks don't like that. So they want to go the simplest way to go somewhere. So.
And my next question, I guess, goes to either the applicants or the staff. All of the buildings that we have in International Center and other developments like this in the village, what's our vacancy rate in those developments? Do we know even a ballpark figure?
I can tell you right now, the vacancy rate in Woodridge is 3 or 3.5% vacancy.
I was just getting ready to say that our current vacancy rate is at 3%.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Before we go back through the commissioners again, does anybody have any statements or questions that they would like to ask before we get to the public?
Just a clarity, there was a question by public, which I had, or comment more. Illustration 4AD shows 4 warehouses. Just wanted to make sure every one of you saw that the trucks and doors are on the back side of those buildings, while the houses are on the other side. So there's a building between where the trucks are that make the noise and where the residents live. This one, they're not going to have that. We're sideways, but we're going to be right there with the trucks and doors. So those illustrations are a little deceiving to us.
Well, what I would say is one thing, Commissioner, is, I think these were presented more for truck traffic illustrations, not to say a noise type discussion. I would say if you look at the buildings on Davie Road, though, all the truck traffic, again, that has very little truck traffic, but the trucks are still going down Davie Road. Now, granted, there's one truck a night, but you still have a lot of traffic going down Davie Road, and it actually has a lot of employee traffic. So you're getting, I think those are doing 750, 800 employees, 400 in, 400 out. So it's got decent car traffic. There is homes along Davie Road there that are still hearing the cars and the trucks, and there is still trucks going. That building is still doing, that building is still doing 33 trucks a day. So there's still 17 trucks every single day drive down Davie Road to those buildings. And there's homes right, there's homes right down there, especially in the West End, that are right on that road. So
I'm sorry, I wasn't talking about your illustrations. There was an illustration in the original package.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Four warehouses. And
I don't disagree. Those other ones, if you're talking about the proximity to residential, I mean, we weren't showing this either to say, well, they have a lot of trucks here. It was just more for the measuring traffic.
That particular exhibit, Commissioner, again, has nothing to do with orientation as far as dock doors and someone's specified site. It has to do with residential property lines versus the development. That's it.
I mean, I think it was used to try to illustrate how this developer has gone beyond by separating by distance. And I'm just clarifying that they have distance wise, but they're facing the houses, or at least kitty corner to it.
Yes, my setback comparison document was given to the commissioners and the public to show setback comparisons. The applicant is proposing docks to face, that's not directly at the rear of the building, it's at the south of the building of their proposed building. That was the intent of my document. Thank you.
And then you just mentioned traffic and all the cars, and yet that wasn't in your discussion of traffic for this. I mean, there's 270 parking spots or something like that. So that would assume that there's at least 300 or 400 employees you're expecting.
No. We would expect, I think there's a good chance we have 200, and we do have 200 to 250 employees here. I mean, 200 employees probably. So I think that's a fair assessment.
But 2 or 3 shifts could be a lot more, but that's all traffic coming and going too. So.
No, I don't disagree. I think one thing too is if you look at like the traffic study, the peak hours was by KLOA was, I think, 56 inbound or 56 trips into it at, both at AM peak and PM peak. So again, I think a lot of these people are showing up here at 6:37 in the morning, and so I'm not sure I completely agree with the IT manuals on some of this stuff, but it's the industry standard. So it's, who am I to argue with them? So that is actually why we go out and do our own traffic studies. Cause what I saw, to put in perspective, when you have the truck counts for the IT manuals, I'm like, those are just wrong. I mean, we can go, when I was at Prolites, we're the largest owner of industrial real estate in the world. We can look at our own buildings and come up with our own analysis. I mean, we pay for it, but it's data.
Okay, commissioners, in the interest of time, I'd like to shift here a little bit, and we'll have a chance, I think, after the public comments to make some final comments and questions before we do our motions. But hopefully we'll get some additional insights with the public comments here as well too. So,
Commissioner, can I make one more comment, if you don't mind?
Sure.
And this is, it's one thing is, I was reading Barron's magazine last weekend, and there was a whole 5 pages on the enormous push on electric trucks, hydrogen trucks. And I do think electric trucks for long haul, meaning the long distances, is still a little ways away for the batteries and the distance you can go and the power that has, the torque to get like through Colorado mountains. But you're seeing many people, Amazon, UPS now, going to either electric trucks or these hydrogen trucks for the short haul. And so I'm not a trucker, so I can't tell you what that means for the backup beeps. I assume they probably still have them, but I can tell you that the hydrogen trucks and also the electric trucks are going to be, electric battery are going to be much quieter than the current trucks. Does that mean for sure everyone will use that? No, I don't think so. But I don't think by 2020, when we build this building in 21 and you're leasing it in 22, do I think they're all electric or hydrogen? No, I don't. But do I think over a period of time, do I think that will change? Yes, I do. And I think you'll see a higher percentage each year of those types of trucks. So especially the short haul, meaning you're taking product from here and just delivering it to, you're taking it from Woodridge and you're taking it to the city of Chicago. That's a short haul ride. Those will be electric trucks.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks. I'll be quiet now.
Okay. So at this time, we will now accept remarks from the public in the following order. First, those who elected to speak in person at the Village Hall. And Phil, do we have anybody here tonight?
We do. I have just signaled. We have our chief of police with us, marshalling in-person commenters. We do have one person here.
Okay.
The chief should be bringing them in momentarily.
Okay. And then second, those who elected to join us virtually. And then finally, staff will enter those remarks that we received electronically ahead of time into the record as well. Please note that remarks received as it relates to this case consideration are for the public record. The applicant, applicant's witnesses, and/or village staff will not provide feedback. Per section 1-5-5 of the Village Code, remarks shall be limited to 3 minutes per speaker so that we can get everybody through. And then after that, we'll go back to Plan Commission
I'll signal you.
cases as well too. So as you can see on screen here, we have a person in person. And Phil, I'm going to turn this over to you now because I think you run this very well.
Alrighty, thank you, Chairman. So just so everybody joining us at home is aware, this is different than a public hearing. We will not be swearing people in as we did last time. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute that momentarily. And as the chairman just stated, you will have 3 minutes to provide your comment. If I can just find you. You can, yes, that's fine. Alrighty, and you may begin.
Okay. For everybody, my name is Lauren Mofield. I live on the corner of Tresham Court. And I think that with the exception of the houses that are backing up to this new development, my home is going to be one of the ones most greatly impacted by this development. I'm here today, again, speaking to you after I spoke at the last meeting and after my letter that I wrote this past week to express my concern with this development. After the last call, I went and I drove around the different ORI zoned areas in the village of Woodridge. If you take a look at the area off of 53 in Hobson, you'll see that this area was developed in the best interest of its neighbors. You see that there's a lot of space in between the front and back of the buildings, between green space and 53. You also see that this area was used for development for the betterment of the village and for its residents. You don't see 20 truck bays on any of the buildings, and you don't see a lot of congestion from a truck building like that. If you take a look at the area between Janes and 355 right by City Hall, you'll see that these are smaller buildings like Skeleton Key Brewing on Lamont. They're not tall. It doesn't look like there's a lot of truck traffic going through these areas, and it is in line with the rest of the area and buildings surrounding it. If you take a look at Woodward and 87th area, you do see some of those larger warehouse buildings, but these are bordered by major streets like Woodward and 355 and clearly separated away from the neighborhoods that are surrounding. Again, if you were to take a look at the areas adjacent to Lamont and 55, these are spaces that would otherwise have sat vacant if they were not developed for ORI. Additionally, the business park has ORI adjacent to it, and that makes sense as you are transitioning back into residential use. It seems like the village has taken a certain stance in the development of these ORI areas, and I would ask that the village consider this as they are developing a sizable piece of land that is in between two large subdivisions, both in Woodridge and in Darien. Another topic I'd like to address is the impact of COVID on the economy, the environment, and the way
There's
that
1 minute left.
everybody is working and learning. I've just learned that the Woodridge schools are going to be doing virtual learning for most of their students for this fall. Again, a lot of people that I cited in my letter are also working from home due to COVID because they're unable to go into their offices in a safe manner. This means that everybody's going to be working and learning from home, and the construction associated with this project is going to be significantly disruptive to the quiet nature of the neighborhood. I'd also like to call out a couple of different areas that I've cited in the past and that other people had raised in past calls. This village or this development would ruin the nature feel and the privacy that is associated with our neighborhood and all the green space that we have. Additionally, the property value of our home would go down because of this development, although I cannot see the benefits from the development that does not have a designated tenant. It's hard to predict what the tax usage.
That is 3 minutes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Chairman and Commission, just to provide a point of clarification on some of the areas referenced in that public comment, just so everybody is on the same page and for context, even though staff won't be responding to questions and comments as they come in, I feel this is an important point of clarification. As you know, occasionally when staff presents to you issues involving ORI, zoning districts within the village, typically we leave 2 areas off of any zoning maps we may provide to the commission. That is because even though the zoning appears on the zoning map as ORI, those 2 areas are actually regional planned unit developments, which give it a zoning classification of ORI. So I think that speaker referenced 7 Bridges at the beginning, being around the 53 and Hobson Road area. Even though on a map that would show up as ORI, that is a completely different beast indeed. It's just an underlying zoning with an annexation agreement and a special use permit for regional planned unit development on top of that. So the zoning map would say ORI, but would definitely fall outside of the typical parameters of an ORI district. And the other area is that area kind of right in the center of the village on the Boughton Woodward intersection. Same scenario there. Just wanted to provide that clarification. And Chairman, if you will, we have 17 members of the public in queue. We'll do this the same way we did this last time. So please, nobody utilize the hands up button. Everybody will be given a chance to speak just as we did last time. I will call on you one by one. We will give you your 3 minutes, and as a point of courtesy, you will be provided time checks on a regular basis just to ensure that you can say everything you feel you need to say. So at this time, I will go through this list one by one. The first person I will be calling on is a phone number 630-336-1873. Can you hear me? Phone number ending 1873? So phone number ending 1873. Can you hear me? All right, we will try and come back to that one at the end, just as we did last time. The next phone number on the list is 630-926-3271. Phone number ending 3271. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, this is Dennis Cinto. I reside at 1214 Meadowwood in Woodridge. I would like to first state that we are opposed to this construction of this warehouse. In comparison, they make comparisons with this warehouse to Darien, and that Darien facility is very big. This facility that they're proposing is 35% bigger or larger than the facility in Darien. In addition to that, everything is speculative about this plan, from the traffic to the planning to the noise. Everything across the board is speculative on this project. And I won't take 3 minutes of this because I think everything has been addressed based on this. However, we are absolutely against this project due to the fact of it's backing up against the residential community. The zoning is completely inappropriate for this. In addition, it seems as though the planning commission continues to push the envelope on the ordinances to try to push this through. This building and this warehouse simply does not belong in this facility or in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude your comment?
Yes, it does.
Thank you for your time. Okay, the next person on my list tonight is Angie Johnson. Angie, if you can please unmute yourself and confirm that you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, my name is
Great.
Angie Johnson. I'm at 1205 Chesham Court. Some of my concerns are, first, I highly oppose this warehouse being in a residential area. Some of my current concerns are the brightness of the lights, being that this is so much elevated than the house is behind it. How is this gonna be in the neighborhood with these bright lights? And you said that you don't know who the tenants of this warehouse would be. What happens if it is Amazon? You don't know that yet, do you? How do you conduct a healthy risk assessment on the fumes coming from these trucks that will be coming in and out so often? Those are just some of my concerns.
Does that conclude your statement?
Yes.
Thank you for your time. The next person on my list is Anne Perry, and if you can please confirm for me that you can hear me. You may need to unmute.
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. You may begin. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I would like to know how many dock doors are in all of those warehouses that the developer referenced. He was comparing, and that he still has the potential for 50 docks, even if he's not putting them all in right now. There are just lots of guesses, and I don't think he can keep saying that this will not be truck intensive, not with 50 potential docks. And even 10 per night is too much. If we have to be woken up 10 times at night and call the police because it's too loud, we shouldn't have to live that way. Also, who's going to come out in the middle of the night and monitor decibels? I'm against the proposal also because it does not fit here. It is too big. It's 2.5 times to 12.5 times larger than the existing structures. The deviation for the height will make it tower over everything in the area. The tenants are unknown, which calls into question the estimate of 20 to 40 trucks per day. Health hazards from idling trucks, diesel spills, noise, light pollution have not been addressed. I'd like to know if there's going to be a noise impact study, environmental study, second storyline of site study. The fact that our homes may decline by as much as 11% needs to be addressed. Some neighbors are moving, others are reluctant to make home improvements because they're afraid they will not even be able to sell their homes. In 2015, Woodridge received the Clean Air Counts Award, and they were presented this for their efforts to improve the environment and lessen impacts on the environment. I don't believe this project is in accordance with those efforts. I think it will undo any work that Woodridge has done to ensure clean air. I also feel the Plan Commission needs to put the best interests and well-being of the residents into consideration. I did some research and with people who live right next to warehouse, and Rich, I want to offer a few quotes. Rick H says that he doesn't open his windows anymore. They're shut for noise and smell. The high berm between his house and the warehouse does not protect him from seeing, hearing, or smelling the trucks. The lights are taller than the berm and there's a haze in the sky. The warehouse is noisy and the truck traffic heavy. It's a negative impact. It diminishes your quality of life. There's no way to mediate it. Audra A says that the development has ruined our property value and our lives. It is not just the I-12 East residents who are opposed to this. We have almost 800 people who signed our petition, and they will also feel the effects of the truck traffic, the pollution, and the noise. I urge you to join with residents and landowners to find a way to responsibly develop this land. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person on our list is Anthony Bonaconte. Anthony, can you please unmute yourself and confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Bonaconte. Me and my wife live on 8129 Basswood Lane in Woodridge, Illinois. We are here to oppose this project vehemently for a lot of the reasons that were already said. I appreciate hearing the commissioners tonight and the 2 or 3 people that have already spoke. I'm going to go over some of the same points because I really truly believe that this project is going to adversely affect this community in many different ways, including environmentally, economically, safety. So some of the reasons I oppose this are for the pollution, both noise and the air, as we've just heard that the 2015 was awarded, Woodridge was awarded the clean air, and that's just not going to help the air in the area or the noise. Again, I hear other people saying that this developer is comparing this to other things and this, that, and the other thing, and there's a lot of speculation going on. Well, I'm gonna compare it to other things as well if we're gonna go down that road. I used to live by a warehouse. It was a chocolate factory, but it was a warehouse. It was trucks coming in, and he said they were going to come in at 10 to 7. I'm going to tell you, they're not. They're going to come in at 5. They're going to come in at 4. They're going to come in at 3, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like the other lady said, you're going to call the police. Who's going to be out there policing this from these developers? The developers are trying to skate through this with all their deviations and stuff like that. And once it's built, they're gone. They don't care about it. And then it's left to us to get woken up in the night from the back. That beeping noise was the biggest thing. And the pounding on the trucks, they had to pound on the truck. We don't know who's going to be in there. We don't know if they have to pound on the side of the trucks. And that's a big speaker. And I could hear that thing. I don't care if I'm 100 yards away or a mile away, I could have heard that. So the noise pollution is going to be horrible from experience. I know this from experience. And I had to call the police a couple times on them, and it didn't do anything. Destruction of the precious habitat that's in there. There's numerous life forms in there. And I don't care if the tree's a 5 or a 1. 5s have pollinators that have laid their nests in there. So I don't care what the tree is. If a human goes 5 or 1, the human doesn't make a bad choice. Nature makes that choice. So there's a lot of trees in there. There's a lot of habitat. There's wetlands in there, and anything that adversely affects wetlands is prohibited under law in Illinois. So pollution and traffic is going to be that. Traffic is another one. If you want to sell houses, I used to be in real estate. You know what the worst thing to sell houses? To have somebody wait at Lamont Road for 5 minutes, or 75th Street, or 83rd Street for 5 minutes because there's 15 trucks going down it now. It's just they won't buy here. They're like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to sit here. Let's go to another town. It's going to bring down our property value 11%. It shows, statistics show, studies show that trucking in an industrial area that's right by residential area brings in, for those reasons, traffic, safety concerns, those property values go down. So, and I just don't see the economic value of having something like this there. They say the schools and everything like that.
That does conclude your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Alrighty. The next person on the list is Anthony Cinto. Anthony, did you join us by phone previously?
I'm currently on Zoom.
Okay, but you did join us by phone just before, right?
No, I'm only on Zoom.
Okay, great. And please go ahead.
Yeah, so I currently live in Chicago. I grew up in Woodridge. It's been pretty formative. I've worked in transportation at Google, Uber, JB Hunt. One of the things that I can say is if you look at a warehouse district, trash is a big thing. So open top garbage dumps or whatever have you, they're filled with packing materials, whether that be plastic, styrofoam, whatever have you. These things blow in the wind. They're designed to be lightweight. They're designed to cover a massive amount of surface area. These things will blow into people like Mr. Sealander's or Commissioner Sealander's backyard. It's going to be left to the people that live in these areas to clean up after this. You don't know who's going in there. So while there's truck parking, and I think Anthony, the person who spoke earlier, is dead on. Working in trucking, people are constantly late. People are constantly early. There's nowhere to park in this general area to accommodate these people. So whether, are they going to park over in Downers Grove, or is Downers Grove going to put up with this in the Four Corners area? I highly doubt it. And I think you don't have to look further than if you were to just go to a warehouse area and look at, the people coming and going from the jobs, the people who man these facilities, it's a bum rush. If you look at start a shift, after shift, in Joliet, look no further than 5 years, there was a death due to somebody rushing to a job, and they unfortunately, and they crashed into someone and died. I just don't see, the area I grew up in, I hold it very dear to my heart, and there's a lot of citizens who are forming families here. I just don't see how this is a benefit to anybody. I think there's a direct science to the tax implication. I mean, like, you can say that there's benefits, but I mean, what kind of benefits? I won't take the full minute left. I'm just very much against this. I've spent my entire career kind of in this field, and I just don't think this belongs anywhere near, children or families or people trying to, just trying to escape the city. If they wanted to live next to an industrial complex, I mean, you don't have to look any further than Chicago. They can move there. They choose to live in Woodridge, and I think that that's all that needs to be said.
Okay, thank you for your time. Okay, the next person on the list is Dana Crick. Dana, if you can please unmute yourself and confirm that you can hear me.
Hello, Mayor.
Great. Please, your time starts now.
Right, so looking at the site plan, it appears that the distance from the truck turnaround to the residence lots is roughly 158 feet from the west side residence lots and 130 feet from the turnaround to the south residence lots. This is really what I'm most concerned about due to the noise and pollution. In the case of Edward Don, which the village seems to be using for their comparison, the distance is 613 feet. That's almost 4 to 5 times as much. And the people who live over there still complain about the noise and pollution. My question to the Plan Commission is, have you thought about how much closer the noise is and pollution that the residents here, that the residents will have here compared to the other Woodridge warehouses? And then following up, the question to the developer is the issue of the sound barrier. The proposed wall, I believe, is about 14 feet high. If we compare that again to Edward Don, the warehouse building itself serves as a sound barrier because it lies between the residents and the docks. That's more than 32 feet high and 367 feet wide. This is critical because the CA Ventures did not follow best practices by positioning dock doors away from residents, which other developers seem to specifically make a priority. So I feel that if this were to be accepted, which it should not because I'm definitely opposed to it, that they should be adjusting the docks to the Lamont roadside away from the residents. And other comments I have is that all the other warehouses seem to be maxed out on the dock doors in the original packet. If not initially, eventually they have all the dock doors. Again, how do we know Amazon's not going to move in there? They're constantly in and out. With all the semis equivalent right next to the streets, whether it's 30 trucks, 10 trucks, we're all bound to be woken up in the middle of the night. Whether it's you, a family member, everyone's going to be woken up, the whole neighborhood. So you guys are constantly pushing ordinances and everyone seems to be against it. I'm here, everyone who's old enough is tuning into the Zoom meeting. For the people too young to not even know what's going on, 5-year-olds, they don't know what's being built. They aren't able to speak up for themselves. Minors don't have a choice of where they live because they have to live with their parents who don't want to get kicked out either. The only people that seem to be against this is one other person besides the family and relatives that want to move out. So
that does conclude your time.
Okay.
Thank you. Alrighty, the next person on the list is Daniel Santiago. Daniel, if you can please unmute yourself and confirm that you can hear me.
Hi, I can hear you.
Okay, your time begins.
Hi, my name is Daniel Santiago, and I live in 8217 Meadowwood Avenue, just to the west of the proposed project. And I, like all the other speakers, I also oppose to this project and the construction of this warehouse. So my comments and question relate to CO2 emissions, which it has been alluded to by some of the other people. So my comment is the following. The new construction will remove many trees, some of them many decades old. One estimate shows just one particular tree in that area, a large osage orange tree near the west end of the property, has sequestered about 27 metric tons of CO2. For comparison, I estimated that my household in my household we generate about 13 metric tons per year. And my questions are, how does CA Venture intend to offset the environmental benefits such trees provide to the community? What are the actions CA Ventures will take to offset the CO2 sequestered by the trees and land? For example, will CA Ventures cover the roof of the building with solar panels? Probably not. And also, what is the village going to do to offset such CO2 emissions? That concludes my comment.
Thank you for speaking. The next person on the list tonight to speak is Gary Popeck. Gary, if you can please unmute and confirm that you can hear me.
All right, good evening. My name's Gary Popeck. My family has lived on 8000 Lamont Road since 1965, the summer of 1965, and we have seen the areas in their best when it's bucolic and it's quiet and there's nature abounding and everything else. And we've enjoyed living where we have lived. We've also seen how times have changed and the properties are changing with it. People are expiring. They're moving out. A lot of vacant property there. And you know, it's I'll tell you, I am not opposed to the development. I think it'd be good for the village. I don't have a lot of statistics. I don't pretend to know all the kind of stuff that a lot of these other people know. But in terms of environmental and stuff like that, I'd have to say what I'd like to hear the outcries if the village, in cooperation with the county and the state, decided to improve and extend Dunham Road north 75th Street down south to 83rd Street, what the outcry would be, and would that be comparable to the outcry of CA Venture putting up this development here? You know, environmental concerns are a big thing with a lot of people, although, you know, you buy a house somewhere against some vacant property somewhere down the road, something's going to happen. And unfortunately, the annexation back in the 90s, and then the Lapata group sticking their business in there as they did, kind of, in my opinion, solidified the zoning for the entire stretch of Lamont Road. Now, I've even heard people complaining about Lapata's the development there, creating noise and that type of thing. And that place is a lot smaller than what CA Venture's putting up. So you can't please everybody all the time. And of course, environmental concerns is a big thing, and nature and all that other kind of stuff is a big thing. But, you know, progress, you know, time marches on. And, you know, there's a lot of other people in our position as well. They'd like to move on with their lives as well. And instead of sitting on a vacant piece of property that's doing nothing but dying. I'm done.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. The next person on the list tonight will be Julie Johnson. Julie, if you can please confirm that you can hear me. Julie, can you hear me? Alrighty, I'll I'll come back to you at the end and see if we figured out these technical difficulties there. Okay, that makes the next person on the line, Ketsin, I believe goes by the name Stephen Young.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephen Young. I live in 1220 Mansfield Street, a family of 4. I've been living here for 17 years. I have an impression that the planning commissions is want to push this development. I just want to tell everybody, this is not the right kind of development for this area. And this area is heavily residential, a lot of kids, a lot of small children. And in my neighborhood, Mansfield Street, and more little kids move into our residential in our area. And then I think the building code in our village did a good job for our resident. The building code is there for a reason. So whatever the variance developer asking is not what we intend to build our village. It's not the intent of build our community. We need to stick to our building code for the greater goods of our residents. You know, if they want to ask for a variance, it's in a heavy industry area or a business area, probably you give it a go. But you look at that, this area is all residential, so small children here. Asking for a variance for the areas with the difference of 8.5 feet for 250 square foot building is not appropriate. It will be towering all the residential area in this neighborhood. I mean, also the traffic for the semi is unknown. Why do you need a 50 loading docks? I think everybody know, just not long ago, we have a 15-year-old young boy died in an accident, bicycle accident along the 75th Street. I don't want to be another accident in our area. So if we increase the semi in this area, it's going to make everybody's lives more difficult.
1 minute remaining.
Think about it. The Lakeview and Prairie View and Elizabeth Ave is not far away from this development. They're only like 5 minutes away from this development. There are kids riding the bike to the school, District 99. Please think about these children. Think about the family riding a bike along the bike trail to go to school or pick up and away from school. Do not just think about the money, the tax money that you give. Think about, is that the safety and the health for the resident, and we all need to stick with the building code. The building code is there for a reason. And I hope all of you will make the right choice for all of us live here. The only one that who wants the development is the resident want to sell the property and go. And we will continue to live in this neighborhood, and we love Woodridge. Please vote no for this development.
That does conclude your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next person on our list for tonight is Lenore Vidal. Lenore, if you can please unmute yourself and confirm that you can hear me.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Your time begins.
Thank you. I'm an attorney and I live close to the development, and I submitted an addendum to my previous tax memo, which may be not the most exciting reading for all of you. However, I want to point out one or two things, which is that your entire budget for the village of Woodridge is related to sales tax revenue, which at the moment is declining extraordinarily due to COVID. So I would like to point out that this is absolutely the wrong place and time and plan for developing a situation like a building like this. It is unable to develop any sort of sales tax revenue for you. It will decrease your property tax revenues, and it is a financially difficult situation for you all to be in. I don't know if this is the right argument for the Planning Commission or if this is an appropriate argument for the board, but I would like to say that aside from all of the people who live here, and I'm one of the people who live here, and I'm very disturbed by the plan that has been developed here. Financially, you've killed the village if you put this here. And you have to think about the future of the financial development of revenues, tax revenues, and other revenues for the village. So I'm not going to take up more time. I just want to put it out there and ask you to look at the memo that I developed, and I hope that you care enough about the people who live here and your own investment in the village to choose something that is more beneficial. Thanks.
Does that conclude your comment?
Yes.
Thank you for your time. Okay, it looks like we have two people combined for the next one. It's Marion and Stan Maida. If you can please unmute yourselves and confirm that you can hear me. Should be a button in the bottom left corner of your screen asking for an unmute. Alrighty, I will come back to you and hopefully we figured out these issues here. The next person on our list tonight is Rosemary Crick. Rosemary, if you can please unmute and confirm that you can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I certainly can. Your time begins now.
Okay, thank you. The fact that we are here today working as hard as we can to persuade this plan commission to oppose a 50-dock warehouse right in people's backyards honestly scares me. We already have zoning laws that clearly say this project cannot happen. It doesn't fit here. These zoning regulations are supposed to protect me, my family, my neighbors, my community. But this developer is asking you to just put that all aside, and CA Ventures is asking you to abuse your power and allow something to be built that has complete and total disregard for Woodridge zoning. That building height exceeds what's allowed, not by an inch, but by 21.25%. Are you kidding me? More than 20%. Why are we here? Why are you even considering this? Now, I've heard the developer say that it's not his building height that exceeds the 40 feet. It's how Woodridge measures building height, which includes grading. Well, it turns out there's a reason Woodridge measures building height that way. It's because the impact is the same. Whether it's the building or the building and the grading, it will soar that high into the air, in his words exactly, 48 feet perception. Now, I get it. CA Ventures is motivated by profit. Theirs, not Woodridge's. So let's talk money. Financially, this makes no sense for Woodridge in the long term, as you already heard. Sales tax is zero, property tax maybe a little more than what their village is collecting now, but it's definitely less than alternative land uses. And moreover, those alternative land uses would not destroy neighboring property values and reduce property taxes from hundreds of homes, as you would see if this structure is built. If you instead put in a development in keeping with the character of the community, the property taxes from nearby homes will stay or increase. The developer is asking you to be extremely short-sighted. And there are a host of other reasons to oppose this. Chairman Presbyorka himself, during the May 18th meeting, pointed
You
to
have 1 minute remaining.
According to an article that proving that during COVID, pollution levels dropped in every major urban area except Chicago because of the high concentration of truck traffic. They verified pollution levels within a 1 mile radius of these installations were exceeded. And the chairman rightfully encouraged fellow commissioners to be mindful of this when looking at development along Lamont Road, and to carefully consider how your decisions affect the immediate neighborhood and neighboring communities. So here's your opportunity to do that. Now, tonight, we residents have to trust in the process. We trust why we set up zoning laws, trust why we established how building height is measured, and tonight we trust you. The public is trusting you with a sacred right to simply uphold and maintain the laws already in place. Thank you.
Does that conclude your statement?
Yes.
Thank you for your time. Okay, the next person is Scott Crick. Scott, if you can please unmute yourself and confirm that you can hear me.
Hello, I am calling in to adamantly oppose this development. This is not the right project for this particular area. It is just way too large. It's just a monstrosity of a building, particularly compared to the area and the other development and buildings that have been already built along Lamont Road. It towers over them, will stick out like a sore thumb. And the amount of noise, pollution will be just insurmountable throughout the area. As other people have mentioned, the trucks with their backup beeps is just going to reverberate throughout the community, disturb everybody, and there's no way you could ever put any kind of wall or sound barrier that's going to dampen that or you quiet it down. You'll still hear it, regardless of how big a wall they build. And the configuration of their building puts the docks closer to the residential homes and people's backyards rather than towards Lamont Road, where they should be located. And once again, as other people have mentioned, the zoning issue is probably the biggest issue. They're asking for a height deviation and some other deviations with wetlands and with trees and such. And I urge the commissioners to say no to that. We have these rules put in place for a particular reason. You have to build within those boundaries that have already been established. So there's no way we should allow any deviations or relief or variations to the rules that we have in place. There's no way with a clean conscience you would allow a building that's already 250,000 square feet to have additional deviances or relief from any of the ordinances that have been established by the village. So it's the commissioner's responsibility to represent us citizens and to vote no on this project. Thank you.
Does that conclude your statement? Okay, thank you. The next person we have is Sean Stewart, and Julie, I do see you. We'll come to you at the end when we try and get everybody who had technical difficulties, so we will try you again. So Sean Stewart, if you can please unmute yourself and confirm that you can hear me.
Hi, yes, I can hear you.
Great, and if you can please start your time.
Sean's my son. I'm a family of 5 right now, so I registered everybody, but he's the only one that got the email. So I'm speaking on behalf of the 5 registered voters that I have living with me that we strongly oppose this warehouse to being built for all the reasons that my fellow neighbors have said. One of the things that I know hasn't really been mentioned is the wildlife that we get to enjoy being part of Woodridge. And when you put up a building like this, it takes away from that. So I know I hear increasing coyotes in the neighborhood, and I have a home with a dog that we don't have a fence. And I run the risk of coyotes coming in my backyard because more and more we're getting rid of their the areas that they get to live in. So what is the village planning on doing about that to protect my family and our pets? So I just wanted to bring that up. I know that hasn't been brought up yet. And I know CA Ventures says that he can, he talks a great talk and he sounds concerned for the residents. He sounds sincere, but as everyone has said, you don't know who's going to be renting this warehouse. You don't know who's going to be moving in, and that severely impacts the neighborhood that is surrounding it and the community that we've built and that we enjoy living in is changing. This warehouse will change that. And we finally have young families moving in, and I fear that that's going to stop. People are going to see this warehouse and young families aren't going to want to be moving in into a beautiful neighborhood when there's a big warehouse right behind it. I know
1 minute remaining.
when I drive by and I see Walmart and I think of all those families that are living right behind that, I think, oh my God, I would never want to buy a house that had a warehouse right behind there. So I just think that I, would want you to really consider the impact the negative impact that this is having on our community. Thank you.
Does that conclude your statement?
Yes.
Thank you for your time. Alrighty, Chairman, we will go back through the 3 that I have on my list as that we had some technical difficulties with before. The first one I'm going to try once more is the phone number ending 1873. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. And if you can please introduce yourself, we can start your time.
Okay, my name is Marion Maida. I live at 8200 Dunham. And I have, my husband is here also. He will speak after I'm done. And I'm also speaking for Angie and Bill Kohler. We are all in support of this Lamont Road project. Angie and Bill are co-owners of the property. In 1999, Woodridge annexed this area and changed the zoning to ORI with all of its regulations. That zoning has been reviewed and upheld twice in the past decade. There is a need for this type of building to supply the community and to increase the tax base. There's more tax base from businesses or from warehouses than there is from residential. And it doesn't drain the supplies either. Since 1999, or when the village was annexed, some of the property owners have tried unsuccessfully to get approval to build ORI developments. If the village continues to restrict the area without concessions to the developers or current property owners, they may unite to hire legal action. The people who are so against this project now made no effort in the past when the zoning went into effect, nor when it was reviewed and upheld. It appears also, excuse me, that Commissioner Sealander cannot judge this fairly because he lives in the opposing subdivision. Therefore, he should not be able to vote due to conflict of interest.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I think that's all. I'll turn it over to my husband now. Thank you.
Thank you. Stan, will begin your time.
Speak up.
Stan Maida, 8200 Dunham Avenue
Road.
Okay. I've been resident on this site since 1968. The property was annexed and rezoned 2 decades ago. The village and the subdivision residents are devaluating our properties by opposing and delaying approval of this project. The development will be a 21st century type building. It will be neat, clean, and orderly in its surroundings. Many of the fears that these residents have will eventually fade, and they will love living where they live. I hope you all read our emails in support. Things seem to be so complicated. We are considering professional legal help. It's a hectic thing to be sitting back there and wondering and trying to live and build a garage that you can't build, rebuild a shed that you can't build, and get permits for stuff. You're on acres of property, not small lots like in a subdivision. the people should have some concern for the landowners. They reached a point in their life, and I'm talking about a lot of them along 83rd Street, all along Lamont Road. They reached a point, they need to sell these properties and move on with their life. It will be, whatever they put there will be great benefits for the community. And like I said, I've been seeing a lot of changes since '68. It was all farm fields over there in Meadowbrook and all the way through to Ides Farm and stuff. Okay.
1 minute.
And things have changed, and I accept the changes because I see them and I think they're better for the community. And as far as animals is concerned, the animals will adapt. I'm a hunter, and I know animals do, and I've been in the woods a lot, and I know animals adapt, and they adapt any place you move them to. They will move. There's the Fox Hollow, and there's another one there down on 87th Street there. I believe there's another forest reserve there. They will adapt. They will run into those areas there. Another thing, we have in many springs
That does conclude your time, Stan. That does conclude your time. Thank you. Is there anybody else, did you say, was on the line, or were you speaking on their behalf, just for clarification?
I was speaking on their behalf.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we do have one more person that we are going to try again that we experienced some difficulties with before. Julie Johnson. Julie, if you want to try and unmute yourself and see if we can get this to work.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, great. Thank you. Your time begins now.
Okay. Hi. Like many of us tonight, I'm opposed to the possibility of this project. As stated previously, there is an abundance of both negative safety and environmental impacts, including the multiple wetlands on page 65 of the agenda, which the CA Ventures development will destroy. In addition to that, I want to focus on the owners of this project specifically. Yes, the minimum requirements of a screen wall and fence and that buffer zone of the detention ponds are addressed, but frankly, it isn't enough. It's clear that the proper research was not completed as there's a lack of traffic studies done. The owner of this project compared cars and trucks, which simply are not comparable. If you look at any reputable traffic study, you cannot compare the two. There's so much talk about code in Woodridge and why it was specifically zoned residential in the first place. CA Adventures earlier said that they are comfortable with this project, but there is no tenant decided, so there's really nothing to be comfortable about. In the beginning of this meeting, there was a comparison of how many trucks came in and out of an area of one of their infrastructures, but it was not amongst houses and families and children's. It hosted a volleyball facility, not trucking distributions. The residential code was put in place for the safety of the community. This project isn't even in development, and there's already so much talk about breaking the code. CA Ventures is failing both the community and the possible future tenants of this building if they're planning on making a facility that breaks multiple aspects of this code. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time. Chairman, that does conclude our list of members of the public. We did hear everybody who was in person and virtual. If it's okay with you, I'll read into the record the public comments received.
Thank you.
Okay, so similar to how we did last time, village staff have been accepting public comment via email and or voicemail between the previous meeting and this meeting, and as is standard practice, the emails that were received were collated and shared with the planning commissioners as of noon today. And I can share that those are all of the emails received prior to this meeting, so that there were no more emails received after that 12 p.m. cutoff today. To provide an overview of the emails received, we received a total of 81 emails in relation to this project between July 20th and today, August 3rd. Of those emails, 34 of those emails were seen to be in favor of the project being approved. 47 of them were shown to be not in favor of the project approved. And just to give some clarification on how those totals were reached, They are of individually counted written comments received via email or voicemail. I will say in this case, there were no voicemails received. We did not count comments on social media or anything of that nature. The count provided is of total pieces of correspondence received, not of individual signatories. In the interest of fairness, staff counted each piece of correspondence as one. Whether that resident had submitted multiple pieces or a single piece, we're just providing total number of emails received. And just again, for the commissioner's information, included in that transmission today was a resident petition submitted on behalf of a residents group that refers to themselves as Lamont Road Communities United. They ran a petition through change.org platform that contained, at the time of their submittal to the village, 773 signatories. Staff did check that list. Of those 773, 249 signatories identify as Woodridge residents. The residents group that submitted that particular petition state that all signatories are Woodridge residents, but various software issues cause locations to display as from out of town or state. But understandably, there is no way of verifying that either way. So we just counted the number of signatories and the number that identify on the petition as Woodridge residents. We cannot verify either way. So that does conclude the amount of public comment received.
Thank you, Phil. Commissioners, we're at that point here where we need to either make a recommendation, motions, or before we do that, are there any other final comments or questions that commissioners may have? So I guess I'm asking you, are you ready to make a motion, or do you still have some discussion?
Just one final thing. So when they built the Lapadas, they required a road to be put behind it, and then they put the water berm behind it. That Lapada's just north of this space. That provided a lot of separation. I think, if anything, what the residents want is plenty of separation between whatever's built and the volume or magnitude of what's being built. Unfortunately, in November of 14, this board said, we don't need the road anymore. And we actually, this board changed the plan, according to our notes in this book, changed the plan, the comprehensive plan for the village to remove that road. I looked at the minutes from that. It didn't reference anything in it about any concerns about noise. All it talked about is the traffic. And so I'm not sure if that was published or needed to be published for the community, but I was unaware of that meeting and did not attend it. But I wonder if this board missed a step in there in thinking about the separation of what we're trying to provide. I agree that we're going to have commercial structures in the back there. It's good for the community, okay? But it's how we're going to separate the residents who live there every day, and we'll have to put up with this from these, and having the magnitude, and 200,000 square foot wasn't ever in my anticipation to be built. I figured there'd be a lot of 100,000 square foot buildings back there with incubator space and so on and so forth, but it was not in the plan from when I moved into my house in '88. So just clarity, this village seemed to care about that separation up until 2014, when the commission elected to remove the road requirement, and thus the separation that was going to be provided. So that's my final word.
Thanks, John. Commissioner Baylog, any further final comments or questions?
Nothing here.
Okay. Commissioner Cortez?
Nothing.
Commissioner Gasper?
No, nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Hendel-Kanunen?
No, nothing here.
Commissioner Girard?
No, nothing.
Okay. Staff, can you please just review the actions necessary for the commissioners?
Plan Commission must make two motions. A recommendation to the Mayor and Board of Trustees for the request for a final plat of subdivision, as well as for final site plan approval.
Okay, those are on page 19 of the packet from the July 20th meeting. Thank you, Kim. So do I hear any motions for the recommendations, against the recommendations, changes to the recommendations?
I don't have my packet up. Can we flip to that page on here or no?
Yeah, bear with me one moment and I can pull that up.
Should be page 6, I think, of the PC report, Bill.
Page 6, thank you. So quite the lengthy one. I'm just getting through the minutes now. I apologize.
I have a question while we're getting that up.
Yeah.
So for the Plan Commission, whatever our choice is on this, does it go to the board anyway?
Yes,
Okay.
the recommending body.
Thanks.
Okay.
And you'll see when Phil brings this up, the way the recommendations are written is that we can make a recommendation to the Mayor and Board of Trustees to either approve or deny the request.
So, Chairman, I believe, just as a point of order, I believe the way that would typically work when there's a decision to be made such as this, you would call for a motion one way, and if you don't get any takers, you would call for a motion the other.
Okay. So I will ask if anyone would like to make a motion to approve the first recommendation, which is a request for a final plat of subdivision subject to Plan A listed there.
Here's Commissioner Gasper. I'll make a recommendation to the Mayor and Board of Trustees that we approve the request for final plat of subdivision.
Okay, that would need a second before we can vote on it.
Commissioner Girard, second.
Okay. Gaspar. Gerard.
Aye.
Baylor. Nay. Cortez.
Aye.
I'm sorry, what was that, an aye?
Aye, yes.
Okay, thanks. Handel Kununen.
Aye.
Sealander.
Nay.
And Presbyorka.
Nay.
Okay.
So can you review, is that 4 nays and 3 nays?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
Sorry, just run through that again.
Yeah, so Baylog said nay, Cortez said aye, Gasper said aye, Girard said aye, Handel Kununen said aye, Sealander said nay, and Presbyorka said nay.
So 4 ayes and 3 nays.
You have 4
Yes.
ayes and 3 nays.
Yes, 4 ayes and 3 nays.
Thank you.
Okay. The second action
Motion
needed.
passed.
Thank you. Second action needed is to make a recommendation to the Mayor and Village Board of Trustees to either approve or deny a request for final site plan approval, together with certain deviations listed on Exhibit G, and subject to 4 plans and 2 conditions listed in staff's report, as you can see on the screen there. So can I either get a motion to approve or a motion to deny?
Commissioner Gasper, I'll motion that we approve the request for final site plan approval together with the deviations listed on Exhibit G, subject to plans A through D and conditions A and B? Does it end at B?
I believe so. Let me double check that. It does.
Okay, so A and B.
Okay, needs a second.
This is Commissioner Handel Canoon, and I'll make a second.
Okay. Gaspar,
Aye.
Handel Canoon,
Aye.
Baylog, nay. Cortez,
Aye.
Girard,
Aye.
Sealander,
Nay.
Presbyarka.
Nay.
Motion carried.
Okay. Next item on our agenda then is, so now that we've considered that case and have handed it off to the board, would be any public comments on items not related to the agenda. Phil, if we had anybody who has raised their hand for comments not related to the agenda.
We have not at this time, members of the public, unlike the previous case consideration, which it was safe to assume we were all here to comment on. I would ask you at this time, if you do have any comments related to anything not related to this particular case consideration, please do use that raise hand button on your Zoom dashboard to notify staff that you would like to speak about, again, any case consideration or any other matter for the Plan Commission that is not related to this particular case. Seeing none.
Okay, and we move on to discussion items.
Discussion items, we have none. Would you like to go to update of previous Plan Commission cases?
Yes, unless the commissioners have any discussion items. Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to updates of previous Plan Commissions cases.
The Plan Commission did, I'm sorry, the Village Board did hear the consideration case for schools in ORI district in which they approved that. That particular applicant is now preparing to apply for a special use permit to go back through the process. So once that official application has been submitted and staff has conducted its review and we go through all the public notice requirements, that case will be back before you in the future.
Chairman, we have now had a member of the public indicate they would like to speak, assumingly about a comment about an item not related to this agenda. Obviously, that item is passed. Would you like to give them that opportunity?
Sure.
Okay, Rosemary, you will be allowed to speak on any item not related to tonight's consideration.
Yes,
3
please.
minutes.
Thank you. I don't really want to speak. I just want to ask a question. I'd like to know why we have zoning ordinances.
Is that question directed to staff or to the Plan Commission?
To the Plan Commission, please. Specifically to those members who voted to approve the variances.
Okay, so that's a comment related to the case.
Okay, then generally.
So generally the ordinances are there, but we always make case-by-case considerations for deviations to those ordinances if they are not undue burden on the surrounding community or on neighbors. So there have been many cases where we have denied those ordinances, or excuse me, those deviations, or staff has not allowed the case even to come before the Plan Commission if the developer is asking for deviations. So that's pretty standard practice to take things on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, may I ask how you define undue burden on neighbors?
It's case-by-case basis, so I can't make a general statement. It all has to do with individual cases.
Okay. Well, we definitely were not represented this evening.
Thank you. And Chairman, there is one additional person. Again, any comments must not be related to tonight's case. Would you want to allow that person to speak as well? Okay. Julie Johnson, you have been recognized.
Hi, my question is kind of to piggyback off that last about case by case when you take those zoning ordinances and you decide to change them up and you allow for these to be put against it, what cases do you allow those to be broken? Why do you break cases? Why do you break zoning ordinances if you also allow for them to just be undone again? So that was a general question to anybody who's able to answer it.
Yeah. Director Porter, or do you want to take a shot at that one? Because I think it has to do with case by case again.
As I stated briefly previously, is that all zoning ordinances have to provide for some level of relief. The village refers to as relief. So when code is not being broken, so to speak, again, you're allowing someone the ability, an applicant, the ability, whether it's a homeowner seeking relief from the code to allow for a slightly larger home, depending on the zoning district, or a business to expand, depending on the zoning district. All zoning ordinance need to allow an ability to allow an applicant to request a level of relief based on the requirements. So that's what it's mean by case basis. Every zoning district has different requirements within this community, as well as we have annexation agreements that govern some of our large developments that have been developed over the years, such as the Seven Bridges development, as someone alluded to earlier. That has an underlying ORI zoning district, but an annexation agreement dictates those uses as well as a special use permit. So there are so many different nuances with respect to zoning regulations and ordinances. So a zoning ordinance isn't broken, but any applicant has the right to request relief when their particular situation does not meet the tenets of those zoning ordinances. And that is a nationwide standard. Thank you.
And is that a request that can be encouraged by money? Is that how these requests come about? Or how do these requests get approved by just a few people in our community as opposed to being voted by the members of our community?
That request is based on a technical review by staff, and that is provided to our plan commissioners, just like in every community in the country, for consideration. So it has nothing to do with money. With respect to staff, we conduct technical reviews. The village board does not allow staff to provide recommendations at all based on our professional experience. I provide, or Phil will provide, a technical review based on the code. We outline those requirements based on the code to our plan commission as well as our village board. Our village board will make the final decision on any project to include this one. So although this particular case consideration did receive affirmation for both motions, the village board will make those final decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Chairman, that does conclude our members of the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
And that leads us to our
Let's
final
see, so Director Porter, you said that the next Plan Commission meeting, this is the one on the 17th, has been
We are
canceled,
working to reschedule potentially that date. So as far as our next plan commission consideration, staff will be in contact with all the commissioners to confirm that date. That date for our next case consideration will be publicized on our new website at woodridgeil.gov, as well as when the village board decides they will hear this case, that date will be published on our website. It's our new website, which is www.woodridgeil.gov. You'll be able to go to the boards and commissions section of their website in order to find out and to monitor when this case consideration will go before the village board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if no other discussions, then I'll hear a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
And second. Sorry.
Commissioner Gasper will second.
Gasper, thank you. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Sealander,
Aye.
Gasper,
Aye.
Baylog, aye. Cortez,
Aye.
Handel Kanunen,
Aye.
Girard,
Aye.
Presbyorka.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. And thank you everyone for your time tonight and patience and getting through this difficult case. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Have a good day, everyone. Be well.